And now we take a look at news stories making headlines around the globe. Former President Goodluck Jonathan has paid a visit to the national chairman of the African Democratic Congress, ADC, Senator David Mark, at his Abuja residence. The meeting, described as crucial, comes amid growing political realignment ahead of the 2027 general elections. While details of their discussion remain undisclosed, political observers believe the party may not be unconnected with efforts to forge new alliances and strengthen the opposition's position in the evolving political landscape. Jonathan, who has in recent months been at the center of consultations across party lines, continues to play a pivotal role in Nigeria's democratic process. Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, who earlier in the day also met with David Mark, disclosed the development on his X page, describing it as a meeting of the Nigerian people against the oligarchs who promote poverty and insecurity in the land. He also shared images of key participants. The African Democratic Congress has also finally rested the idea of using the yet-to-be-registered Advanced Democratic Alliance Party, or ADA, as an alternative vehicle platform for upcoming elections. At a meeting of ADC leaders in Abuja, the National Publicity Secretary, Bolaji Abdullahi, disclosed that all ADC's presidential aspirants have agreed to support whoever wins the primaries election, along with a final order being given to all members to resign membership of other political parties. In other news, the World Bank has commended Nigeria's Renewed Hope Ward Development Program, which aims to translate Nigeria's macroeconomic reforms into real grassroots benefits across all 8,809 wards nationwide. The federal government initiative also aims at stimulating economic activity, boosting food security, generating jobs, and reducing poverty by directly supporting at least 1,000 economically active individuals per ward. The new country director, World Bank, Mr. Matthew Verghese, gave the commendation during a meeting with Nigeria's Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, Senator Abubakar Bagudu, in Abuja yesterday. Bagudu, in his remarks, intimated his guests that the groundbreaking ward initiative was designed to boost rural economy and that the raft of policy initiatives being introduced, coupled with reform, were to ensure economic transformation. This was as the Central Bank of Nigeria reiterated confidence in the country's macroeconomic outlook, insisting that its recent decision to reduce the monetary policy rate by 50 basis points would stimulate and expand growth without undermining the stability of the naira. The Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, NUPRC, has signed off on a sales purchase agreement by TotalEnergies Exploration and Production Nigeria Limited to assign its entire 12.5% contractor interest in oil mining lease 118 to Shell Nigeria Exploration and Production Company and Nigerian Ajip Exploration Limited. According to the details of the agreement, TotalEnergies will transfer 10% of its interest to Shell at a cost of $408 million, while Ajip will pay $102 million for the remaining 2.5%. NUPRC said in compliance to Section 95 of the Petroleum Industry Act of 2021, it carried out due diligence on Shell Nigeria Exploration to ascertain their financial capacity and technical competence. It further stated that TotalEnergies had also paid the statutory application fee for the deal. The Commission noted that Shell and Ajip will bear the decommissioning and abandonment liabilities owed by TotalEnergies to the federal government of Nigeria with respect to the divested interest. All right, this morning we talk politics and also look at the economy, look at the Renewed Hope Ward initiative, as well as, of course, the divestment by TotalEnergies to Shell Nigeria. Dr. Bati, I'll start with you in Abuja. Your take on this story. First of all, David Mark looks like the belle that a number of political heavyweights are courting. And then, of course, other stories this morning.
Okay, it's not surprising that, this political development is of interest to many people and has given rise to speculations in various directions. Now, yesterday alone, you had Alhaji Waziri Adamawa Atiku Abubakar leading a delegation to meet with Senator David Mark in his residence. He was accompanied by most of the principal figures in that ADC coalition, including the former governor of Kwara State, the spokesperson of the party, and then also former governor of Kaduna State, and a host of others. They had a meeting, and then shortly after, the same day, you had, President Goodluck Jonathan visiting the same Senator David Mark, whose position as chairman of the party, the ADC, has been approved by INEC, even if there is a group within the ADC that is objecting to that. Now, it's of interest to the extent that, one, in the case of Waziri Adamawa Atiku Abubakar, he disclosed that, they met to discuss something of interest to the Nigerian people, and that we would address how the oligarchs in Nigeria are punishing the poor people. So in that regard, the disclosure was made in that direction. But as for President Jonathan, people were saying, he's now doing consultations with a lot of people. Well, the reason why many commentators would say that was that after President Jonathan left office, he set up the Goodluck Jonathan Foundation, and then he was very busy with international engagements. He wasn't so actively seen having political meetings. But in recent times, we've seen him having meetings with Mr. Peter Obi, General Babangida, Governor Bala Mohammed of Bauchi State, and then now he was seen publicly going to visit Senator David Mark. He may have visited people previously, but it didn't generate news. But it gets reported now because of the circumstances surrounding his place in the current politics, with a lot of people saying that, he's probably the best person that can take power away from the APC government and return it to whatever party. But all of that is still at the level of people speculating and trying to do their own permutations. President Jonathan himself has not made any statement as to where he stands. It could just well be, that he has returned to active politics without necessarily being interested in any position. So we should wait for him and not speculate, for him to come forward and tell us. After all, in 2023, some persons went and spent 150 million naira to collect funds on his behalf. At the end of the day, he said he was not interested. So I think the onus rests with him to give clarity. But what we can say is that with all these meetings, with all these consultations, that something is happening, that the opposition coalition is coming together, trying to find direction. And it is of interest that Malam Bolaji Abdullahi also said yesterday that those members of the coalition who have not made up their minds should go and resign their membership of other political parties and join the opposition coalition under the umbrella of ADC to form a formidable front. By the same token, he said that the involvement with ADA, the other political party called ADA, has been laid to rest because ADA was supposed to be the backup, platform, just in case the ADC platform proved ineffectual. So we watch developments, and I think we'll have clarity, one way or the other, by the first quarter of next year. Now, as for NUPRC, well, that matter has been on the table for long. TotalEnergies wanted to divest its contractor 10% in the joint venture with the NPCL and NNPCL in OML 118. Now, one company called Chapal, and I think that is a clarification that was offered by the spokesperson for NUPRC that we should pay attention to, said Chapal had wanted to take up that stake, but they couldn't pay. They even got ministerial consent in October 2024, and now that interest has now petered out. Now, there is nothing in the law, in the Petroleum Industry Act, that says another group cannot show interest. Now, obviously, Shell and Nigeria Energy Exploration, want to take up that 12.5% that is now available for divestment. Shell is taking 10%. Ajib is taking the remaining 2.5%. Now, the rub of it is that we hope that this will not end up the same way as TotalEnergies, because, but what is important is that Nigeria will make some money from it, because they will pay statutory application fee, and then at the end of the day, those who are interested will also pay like 2%, 2.5% to the Nigerian government. But the major point is about attracting investment in the upstream sector, from which we have seen many players leaving. There is oil in other places now. They have oil in Guyana. They have oil in Chad. They have oil in Senegal. And that's why I think it's important that Minister Enikin Lukubiri at UNGA, the UN General Assembly, was talking about investment. Finally, the World Bank chief, new World Bank chief in Nigeria, Dr. Verghese, meeting with the Minister of National Planning and Budget and National Planning. First, he commended Nigeria's economic reform. He says we are on track. Now, that has become very characteristic for World Bank. Every time they are praising the Tinubu administration, that the reforms are well. I assume that World Bank will also be diplomatic in countries that they are partnering. Their job is to encourage economic transformation and development in countries, and to avoid partisanship. So every time, you see World Bank commending the administration. The missing point is that, okay, what is the effect? We'll repeat the same point. What is the impact in terms of how you and I, benefit from these economic reforms? However, Minister Bagudu says that they are committed. They intend to maintain the reform. And what they are adopting also aligns with the World Bank idea of bottom-up approach to economic development. Now they are going to target 8,889 wards across the country, targeting people who have potential, 1,000 in each ward. Our word of caution is that this ward initiative, Renewed Hope Ward Initiative, will not be targeted only at members of APC. The Constitution, which Minister Bagudu quoted, talked about economic prosperity for all Nigerians. But this is political season, and we hope that it's not only APC members at the ward level that will benefit. Since they say they will look at the examples from India, from Kenya, and from other China, and from other parts of the world, where they should try to distinguish between politics and real economic development.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Bati, for dissecting the issues this morning. Rufai, I'll come to you now. Your take on these stories.
Okay, you see, a lot of political meetings going on. It shows that something is rife in the political terrain. What I would have loved to ask Dr. Abati is, he met with his Oga, Goodluck Jonathan. Did he broach this talk about politics? And I know he would not like to tell us what his Oga said, but Dr. Abati, is there anything brewing? You see, you're laughing, Dr. Abati. I can see your face. You're laughing. Is there anything brewing based on the lovely meeting you had with your lovely wife and President Goodluck Jonathan yesterday? Or you just said to say hi to him? You didn't talk anything politics. The you I know will have broached the matter. So it's Dr. Abati that has the empirical facts in the hands as regards this matter today. So,
is he willing to give us an exclusive?
Is he willing to give us an
exclusive? Facts to give you.
You are not willing to give us any exclusive?
No, I have no exclusive for you.
Okay, no exclusive. Okay.
It was a private visit.
Okay, private visit, private visit. But they talked about many of them. Because you see, the visit I'm more interested in is the visit between Dr. Abati and Goodluck Jonathan rather than the other political visit, because I know that's where we can get some juice. But since he said it was a private visit, I think the thing is, you see, you always have politicians try to align one way or the other, especially when it's political season. I think some things we can hold on to now is the fact that the ADC has now said that they're not going to go ahead with ADA. But if I'm to advise, I will still say they should have another political platform they can use. Because the person they are fighting in this game, President Tinubu, is a master of this game. And you're already seeing the problems in the ADC as we speak. And more will continue. So it is very dangerous to be able to use just one platform. I mean, it's just like what was now proven to be false, just the statement attributed to Alhaji Atiku Abubakar that he said he was going to favor Yoruba people Apparently, it was fake news, and Paul Ibe, a spokesperson, have come out to say it. So there's going to be a lot of information warfare. And there's going to be a lot of political warfare. So it is suicidal, to say the least, to say that you are going to use just only one platform. And then if, President Goodluck Jonathan went to see Senator David Mark, yes, they are all part of the PDP family at some point and everything. So it's good for them to see. If Alhaji Atiku Abubakar goes to see, yes, it can be related to politics, because we all know that Alhaji Atiku Abubakar has not, hit the fact that he's very interested in the political terrain. But anything that pans out, we'll be able to see what pans out in the coming days. But I was waiting for some exclusive, but we don't have exclusive as we speak today. Secondly, yes, the World Bank can praise Nigerian leaders and say the reforms are working and everything. What do you want the World Bank to say? Is that not what they've always said? Is that not what the Bretton Woods institutions always want? They want reforms that will stifle the lives of the people. They don't care about the people. What they care about is, yes, they lend out the loans to the development partners and the countries involved, and those loans go ahead to hurt those countries in the end and hurt the economy with all sorts of reforms. So they've always pushed for liberalization in the forex markets. They got it. They've always pushed for subsidy removal. They got it. But it is us in Nigeria that now know that the World Bank was not correct. Because this same subsidy removal that the World Bank said was going to free up cash for development, we are still now borrowing for development. Till today, we can't account for the cash. Some part of the cash that subsidy has freed up is the cash that we are now applying into servicing loans. These are facts there. Despite the fact that the government say, okay, some of the cash they've deployed into some roads, but part of that money too is also pushed towards loans. So the question is, what was the benefit in the end of removing the subsidies? It brought about hardship, but what was the reinvestment in the lives of the people? Next to nothing. There's not been cushioning of the effects of this pain and suffering. All the things President Tinubu promised, agricultural expansion, loans for businesses and all of that, it's not been far-reaching enough. And that's why when you look at it, people are still complaining. A lawyer now has not summoned them via FOI to provide the 8-point-something million people they said they are giving conditional cash transfer of 25,000. We would like to see the number. Because if you give that money, at least we should be able to feel it in the state of play of the economy. But we can't feel it. And it also goes to the conversation about the World Bank they are having, and they're talking about the fact that, yes, the Renewed Hope program, World Initiative, I want to do. All these things are good. But you see, there's a difference between announcement and implementation. Ayo, somebody sent me a message yesterday, Giovanni Williams, about how Development Bank of Nigeria, how they went through the cohort of Development Bank in 2019. They said they have money for them. Till today, they have not given them the money. So there's a lot of audio announcement. Till today, this government has not investigated what happened in the humanitarian ministry in the last administration under Madam Farouk. How they were sharing money for people in the hands during COVID, and they call it conditional cash transfer. So there are many things. It's not just announcement. We need to be able to see the implementation. And as regards the oil sector, it shows people are divesting to the deeper waters. But my very good friend and brother says I should wrap up. So I yield the floor.
All right, just a few more minutes before we wrap up this particular segment. And let me just say a few things around some of the stories that we've taken this morning. Of course, very importantly, the big headline in many dailies today around the World Bank backing or supporting the federal government's Renewed Hope initiative, World Initiative. This was launched under the Ministry of Budget and National Planning with the minister, as you saw him there speaking, former governor, now Minister Bagudu, talking about the benefit of this initiative. If you recall, when it was launched, it said they'd taken the model out of the poverty alleviation schemes done in China, successfully, China, India, and Kenya here on the African continent, where these schemes have been seen to be successful with regards to lifting people out of poverty. Of course, this has been one of the central, central themes of this particular government, the ambition and the aim to lift lift as many Nigerians out of poverty. Of course, in the last administration, we had seen over 100 million Nigerians living in, about 113 million Nigerians living in multidimensional poverty. And this perhaps might have been deepened by some of the policies by this administration, who said that they had to make those tough decisions for the longer term benefit of Nigerians. And so looking at the Kenyan model, the Kenyan bottom-up, and using the bottom-up approach, bottom-up economic transformation agenda is better, it's called in Kenya. And what they've done is that they've identified areas where, where they can go to the people, the most vulnerable, the poorest people in Kenya, and have some targeted initiatives to boost or stimulate economic activities, ultimately looking at even contributing to the GDP, which is also Nigeria's aim. Nigeria is aiming to go to the 8,809 wards, identify 1,000 people in each of these wards. You can do the maths at the end of the day in terms of measurable outcomes of the lives' direct impact of lifting people out of poverty. On the books, on paper, it sounds fantastic. We've often talked about a bottom-up approach to, to poverty elimination, poverty eradication, or lifting people out of poverty. However, if this must succeed, there are a few things that must be done. They've said that funding will come from some of the gains they've made from the reforms they've done. And so that's where some of this would come in. Another advantage is that they are involving all tiers of government. Local government, state government, federal government will work together to actualize this particular initiative. Beyond that, they're also looking to, if you look at the Kenyan model, there were some specific projects that they did. Number one was an attention to universal health care and ensuring that as many Kenyans as possible access universal basic health care. This drive is what we've been calling for in Nigeria for a long time. It's often said that a family or a Nigerian is one step or one sickness away from poverty because of a lack of insurance. And so perhaps even ensuring that they expand the insurance net so that more Nigerians get on the basic health care, national insurance scheme and are able to, protect themselves from shocks or emergencies of health care. Also, the Kenyan model, they looked at small businesses, which is the lifeblood of the Kenyan economy. You can also say the same for the Nigerian economy. We have, over 50–60% of young people in Nigeria in MSMEs. And so what they did was that they provided a hustlers fund. Easier access to credit was what they did. And this is what, when we talk about the MSMEs in Nigeria, a lot of times they don't have access to credit. And so it's also creating that model to ensure that our small businesses are able to survive. I think beyond access to credit in Nigeria is also provision of infrastructure, particularly for those in the manufacturing sector who have the opportunity to create more jobs, for the economy. One thing that we've often talked about and has been complained about is the lack of infrastructure, whether it be power, whether it be transportation, to ease business activities and also to bring down costs and open up for expansion. So these are some of the areas that we're hoping that they will look into. And beyond that, they also invested in agriculture. This administration has talked about agriculture a lot of times. It's a potential for Nigeria that we haven't quite fully tapped into. And so maybe that's something else we'll be looking at with the World Initiative. So a number of things around that. Perhaps conditional cash transfer, like we were talking about it yesterday during the business segment, that yes, that's important, but alongside that is to stimulate the economy, particularly at the grassroots level, to create jobs for Nigerians to be able to, have an income, fend for themselves, ultimately contributing to the GDP and hopefully, according to this administration, attaining that $1 trillion economy by 2030. So, great one there, and the World Bank has said they're backing it. It's now in the finer details. And like you often talk about, Rufai, not just about audio announcements, but in the detail of seeing how this will be implemented. That's the most important thing. Now, going on to politics, I believe that 2027 is going to be an exciting one, especially with the players that have come on board. It's often, we've often talked about the fact that when it comes to the choices for Nigerians, usually they're quite limited because it's either one or two, or like we had in the last election, 3 horse race. But now we're seeing a lot more participation. The conversation now with President Goodluck Jonathan visiting Senator David Mark, who was Senate President during his tenure. To many, perhaps it's a private visit or a social visit or a visit to consolidate plans as to which party he would, if he decides to run in 2027, which party would be his, would be his party. Would it be the Labour Party? Would it be the PDP? Would it be the ADC? He has kept mum on this, and we're all waiting to see whether or not, number one, he's going to run, and number two, whether or not he's going to, which party he's going to go to. Recall that the attraction for the North, some might say, is the fact that he has only one term. He can only do one term. And so he would fulfill the last term, and then, when we talk about zoning and all that, he can go back to the North for another 8 years. But beyond that is also Atiku Abubakar coming in and also not letting go. He's also going to see the ADC chairman, and we don't know the details of the conversation as well. But I think the most interesting part of that story for me is what the publicity secretary said, which is that all the presidential candidates have agreed to support whoever emerges in their primaries. This was the same thing that was said in PDP during the last election, until the candidates of some people did not emerge, or it didn't go the way of certain people, and then it was a free-for-all fight, which perhaps cost them the elections during the last cycle. Would this be the same fate for the ADC, or would they have learned some lessons from the PDP and what happened there? So at the end of the day, it's bringing people together. Senator David Mark has a lot of work on his hands to ensure, as chairman, that he's able to bring all the parties together, and that the strong candidates, potential candidates, would be willing to work together for the good of the party to give a good showing and a good opposition to the APC, who has the incumbent factor. But we continue to watch. 2027, here we come. It's getting even hotter and more interesting.